Hey, and welcome to Insurance Town. I'm the Mayor, Heath Sheeran, and the host of this podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm super pumped that you are hanging out with us today, as I am every single week. I just love it. Excuse me. I truly do. I've had to pinch myself most days that I get to hang out with you guys every week, and I get to host this show and get to be a part of this. This was just a dream 4 or 5 years ago, and now here it is a reality as we're coming up on 4 years of recording this podcast, and you guys still continue to care and want to be here. Guys, this is so incredible. Thank you again so much. And I can't wait to hear this episode, for you guys to hear this episode, I should say, because it's very special to me, as I've got my friend David Watson hanging out with us today, and David's doing some pretty awesome things over there, and what he's doing is just something I wanted you guys to hear about. This episode is sponsored by my friends over at Smart Choice. Smart Choice is a network of 10,000 independent agencies and over 120 carriers. Their agency partners represent more than 11 billion. That's a B in written premiums. That's a lot of clout. That's a lot of just premium written there. And there's a lot to be said for that. They are the fastest growing agency network for a reason. Their agency friendly contract puts partners first. Grow your book of business, increase your revenue, and be able to put your own clients first. Not our clients, they're your clients. These are your contracts by partnering with Smart Choice. Guys, also my good friends over at Canopy Connect, your one-click solution to getting all those deck pages you need to quote your prospect and get the loss runs and get driver's lists, get everything that you need. Canopy Connect is just a game changer. And they, like me, have coming up on 4 years of doing business, and they're continuing to grow. Toga's such a good guy. You can see them at all the events. I just saw them on like an 8-week in a row run of being at events and doing this and doing that. And I've gotten to catch up with them several times, and they're still just crushing it, coming up with new ideas and ways to help you connect better and make that process that much better. Go to usecanopy.com, go to /Heath and get a discount, get a demo, get the whole nine. Guys, I'm going to get out of the way, and I want you to catch this conversation with me and my good friend, David Watson. David Watson, what's happening, brother?
Hey, man, how are you?
Man, I'm good. If I were any better, I'd be you.
I love it.
Yeah, dude, it's good to see you, man. Life treating you well?
Yeah, obviously, right here in the last week of the year. So you got the time off for Christmas, you got the time off for New Year's, but then when you're in our type of industry, there's really not much much time off, anyways.
Yeah. As you can see, if you guys are watching this on video, you'll see like I'm battling right now with this addiction to my Christmas food. I've been popping pretzels and candy, and I can't stop, man. So I'm having issues. And it is that confusing week. And guys, I don't know when this will release. It may be in January, and they'll be like, what are y'all talking about? But it's that weird time when it's like, am I working? Am I not? Like I'm confused. I'm like full of cheese and food and randomness, and like, what is going on, man? Do I still like turkey and ham and Christmas food, or do I not? Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I'm completely confused.
Yeah, no, it's quite a time as you try to finish strong and start well. And then you mentioned your candy. In my stocking, I'm a big Twizzler guy. So if you're watching, I've never seen the extra long before, but those are my current snack. So
yeah, dude, those are the best.
Right there with you.
Yeah, dude. Are you a big snack guy?
Yes, unfortunately, but yes.
What's your okay? We're gonna do a snack draft.
Okay.
We'll do 5 rounds. I'll give you first round. We'll go sweet or salty. I don't care.
Okay.
What's your first round pick as far as if you had to go snack? What would be your first round pick on a snack?
So the way I think about this is anytime you go on a road trip and you go into the gas station, eat, like, you don't plan for the gas station trip, or at least we don't, but with 3 kids, you always make it. So the number one thing I'm looking for when I walk in is going to be the Nutter Butter cookies, the small little ones.
Yeah.
Not the
Yeah,
longer
the
ones, but
minis. Yeah.
yep. So that's number one.
Number one, you're going with Nutter Butter cookies. I love it. That's a good one. I'm gonna have to go. My number one. I think every time I go into, like, if we're talking gas station stop or any kind of trip where I'm at the store where there's gonna be snacks, I'm looking for something fruity candy, like
Yep.
something gummy, so to speak. It could be the peach rings, it could be the gummy bears, gummy worms. But right now, my go-to is sweet tart ropes. Those, like,
Yep.
with the white filling, whatever that is in the middle, and they have like strawberry or cherry or rainbow. Oh my god, I'm hooked on those right now.
Yep.
Sweet tart
Number
ropes.
number two, we'll go with the Twizzlers. I
Oh yeah.
always You got the snack packs that you don't feel too guilty when you wipe out in 5 minutes. So
Yeah.
those are the same size ones that you get at the movie theater when you
Yeah.
knock them out during the preview. So that's number two for me.
Yeah, dude. I'm gonna switch over for a minute to the salty snack, and when I'm going somewhere there, and I'm looking for that. I'm gonna hit the Doritos, and I'm gonna go Cool Ranch, Blue Bag, Doritos. Those are like my go-to if I'm snacking.
There you go. Let's see here. Third is going to be the chewy sweet tarts, like the mini
Oh,
chewy sweet tarts. The problem
yeah,
is, like, thought for a while that they like discontinued them,
yeah,
and so like I was like they replaced them with the ones that had like the fruity whatever in the middle of them.
yeah.
But got a pack in my stocking this year, so that was a pleasant
Nice.
surprise.
That's awesome. Love that. So, yeah, that's a good one, man. I was thinking that too. But I'm gonna have to go with just a classic Reese's peanut butter cups.
There you go. Okay.
That's a solid pick for me.
Let's see here. We're on fourth round. We'll go
Time for
something off
deals.
the sweet. We'll go salty cashews. Honey roasted cashews.
That's a good one. I've never thought about cashews. So
Fantastic.
I like that. I got into this time of year, like the holiday season. I started making candied pecans, and so that
Okay.
kind of falls in the same thing. But it's not my pick. I do cashews. So that's a good one. Another one I like is pistachios. But my fourth round pick, while I'm stalling for a minute, is probably going to be the blue bag of Skittles, the tropical flavors, not wild berry, not original, but the blue bag of Skittles. You ever had those?
No.
Dude, it's a tropical blend. And they're so good.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Last round.
yeah, fifth round, something that kind of found and got hooked on this year is the mini Pop Tart bites, the strawberry
Oh,
mini Pop Tart bites.
yeah.
It's got the nice balance of the strawberry filling, but also the bread or the toast on the outside, whatever you call it. So yeah, that we'll
What's your
round it out
favorite
with that.
flavor of Pop Tart?
Strawberry for those strawberry, but if I'm going like regular Pop Tart, the cinnamon,
That's yeah, brown sugar cinnamon.
brown
Yeah.
sugar cinnamon. Yep, yep.
Yeah, those are money. Those are money. Okay, I've got to end with my classic Haribo gummy bears. And now they make them by the
Can't go
flavors.
wrong. Yeah, you can't
Yeah,
go
and
wrong with
I can
those.
go any flavor I want. A lot of times I'll grab the pineapple because I like a good pineapple one. But yeah,
That
dude.
that for the football fans out there, that is like the Mr. Irrelevant that turned into Brock Purdy pick right
Yeah,
there with the gummy bears on the last pick. So that's
yeah,
a good one.
dude. Yeah, that's hilarious. Man, I appreciate you doing a little draft. I love a good draft, man. They're so much fun for me. All right,
100%.
so now that you kicked my ass on a draft there, let's let the audience know. Although I did get a good last Tom Brady type pick there in the
There
sixth
you
round,
go.
fifth round. But let's take a walk down memory lane. Let's figure out, let the audience know who David Watson is, and let's go back as far as you want, and let's hit me up today. And I'm gonna let the audience know right now. There's a story that I'm looking for from you. If you don't tell it, then I'm gonna be disappointed. I'm not gonna lie, but we'll see if it happens.
Yeah, yeah. So I have an idea. What you're thinking there. It's one of my. It's always a good one, but yeah. So just came up. I guess year 11 started year 11, ended year 11. However, time works, but Started in the insurance industry 2012, jumped around from State Farm, Allstate, Farm Bureau, even did TD Bank for a little bit there, doing life insurance, annuities, all that stuff. And the funny thing is, when I was at State Farm, they asked me, "Hey, let's love for you to join our agency aspirant program." I was like, "No, I don't want to own a business," which is hilarious now, being involved in multiple businesses in ownership. But um, jumped around, not really sure what I was doing. I was going to school for media arts. Got married at the age of 20. And my wife was 21, and my father-in-law was like, "Hey, if you're gonna marry my daughter, you need a full-time job." And working at Chick-fil-A full-time didn't suffice on that, thankfully. And so that's how I got into the insurance industry. Fast forward to 2016, I was working at Farm Bureau at the time and was looking at it as like, man, my plan was either I'm going to go for work at Farm Bureau for 10 years. Anybody who's knows what Farm Bureau or how Farm Bureau works is you have your 1099 agents and you have an agency manager position. That's a pretty cush position. And so I was like, if I don't have an agency manager position within 10 years, then I'm opening an independent agency. And I just had my first daughter in 2016 as well, and started thinking about it. And I was like, man, do I want to start over in 10 years? Do I want to go scratch in 10 years, which would have been just last year? Crazy to think about now, or not even. I've been year 6, 7, whatever it is. And started thinking about, I was like, man, now's the time to do this. Let's just go ahead, bite the bullet. Had no clue what I was doing at the age of 24, starting an independent agency. Did that for 2 years. And I was part of the IOA group at the time, and they were doing the innovation conference. It's like year 2 or 3 of that. Won the scholarship, so that meant I got a free ticket, got room and board for one night, converted from a king room to a double queen. Had someone who paid me for the other queen room or queen bed. Used points to get out there, and on the way out there, my drive into the airport, my flight gets canceled, not like bumped, completely canceled. So I'm like, what do I,
let me ask you, what was your budget going into the week?
My budget was like $500, and $200 of that was for the golf tournament. I was like, I'm gonna play golf out there. And
there's thousands that are just resonating this story right now, because so many of us have been there. I've been there myself as a scratch agency owner. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought up the budget piece, because that's part of the funny part of that is the fact that I use this service called Skip Lagged, which basically what it is you book a flight to somewhere else that connects where you want to go. And it, like, sometimes, like, my flight that I technically booked was to Canada with a connection in Phoenix where the conference was, and it saved me like $400. So I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. So I'm on the way out there, or on the way to the airport, and my flight's canceled. Get there, talk to the girl at the front desk, and she's like, don't worry about it. I've got another flight that's going to get you to your destination. You're only going to be like an hour or 2 late. And she's like, it's going to connect through LAX instead of Phoenix. And I was like, no, it's okay. I really like, let's find a way to get me connection in Phoenix. I'm meeting a buddy over there. We're going to make that other flight together. It's like, no, that's going to put you 13 hours late or whatever it was. And when I finally, at this point, I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to tell you this, but I'm not going to Canada. And she looked down, saw that I only had a checked baggage, I just had a carry-on, no checked. And she's like, don't tell anyone else what you're doing, because you can get in trouble, but we'll get you to Phoenix. And so put on a flight on Phoenix. There was actually one earlier that was showing on my app, but she couldn't check me in. So it's like, let me go check it. Get there, get the last ticket onto this earlier flight. And that's
like a standby situation.
Yeah, I walk up to the gate and I was like, hey, do you have any more room? She's like, yeah, we've got one more ticket for this flight. I'll bump you onto it. So got onto that earlier flight, and sitting there waiting for that flight was where I met my future business partner at Mappus. And so that's where we started talking. We get to know each other a little bit. I was telling him about some of the automation, the marketing, and things that I was doing in my small agency. Well, fly out there, get there, no big deal. He's like, "Hey, let's book an Uber. Let's share an Uber." I was like, "Yes, helps me with my budget. Perfect." Well, he doesn't have Uber on his phone, so I grab it, like $40-$50 Uber ride to the hotel.
Yeah.
On the way out there, we blow a tire, so we spend even more time getting to know each other. And then later at the conference, made the golf tournament somehow. So I walk out as the golf carts are going out. Later in the conference, we get to he invites me to dinner. He's like, "Hey, I'll buy you a drink to make up for the ticket or for the Uber." And we go to a sushi restaurant. I get one roll of sushi, the drink he buys me, and a water. My ticket, like my total's $12. This guy speaks up and says, "Hey, let's just split it evenly for everybody to make it easier on the waitress." So I end up having to pay $76 or something like that.
Oh.
And we go back to my earlier budget. Funny thing is, the guy who spoke up is one of my best friends now. I literally talk to him every day. His name's Josh Witt. But if you know Josh Witt, you know that he's
in Tennessee, right?
Yep, Knoxville.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So kind of shorten the story since I'm going long-winded here. After that, was helping him out with some stuff. He's like, "Hey, let's just do this thing together." So sold my agency, merged, whatever you want to call it, with Andrew in 2018. And that's how I became a part of Mappus. And then throughout the time at Mappus, that's when started figuring out some things with processes, and the precursor to Risk Advisor was born as part of that process as well. So really long-winded there. I don't know if I got to the story that you were wanting to hear. But yeah, that's kind of some of the background to where we get to where we are now, with me being involved with Mappus, me being starting Risk Advisor.
No, I love the story. I think you told me one of our calls previously about, how you had this small budget and how this all happened. It was hilarious to me, and I still think it's funny every time I hear it.
Yeah,
we've all been there, and we've all been on that budget. We've all had this startup moment, it's like, oh crap. And I've had those moments where I'm like, really, bro, you don't have the Uber app, and now I've got to be the one that's good. I always try to. If you ever listen to this, if you're listening now and you're ever in an Uber situation, I'm going to be the last one to volunteer to book the Uber, because I always get stood up on that moment. But I think they have a split thing now, but still, I think it's hilarious because I always get stood up on that. But that makes me laugh. So what it sounds like, I don't know if this goes back to your captive days or exclusive agency days. Was that, the process, procedures, and all that kind of stuff, that go back to your days before the independent? Did you learn some of that then, or was that something you've always done in high school, college, whatever?
Yeah, I mean, it really, the processes piece of it, I've always been involved, like love technology, and with technology, whether did a little bit of coding in high school or figuring out ways to generate leads through Facebook marketing or any of that type of stuff, goes back to some type of process. And the trick is to take the process and then make it repeatable. That's the difference. Like, everybody talks about processes. Everybody has a process at some level, but the problem is it doesn't take the next step to making it repeatable. And then that's when started thinking through, okay, we've got this process of how we handle phone calls. We are a value-driven agency. We focus on building rapport on the first call. We're not one of those agencies that's, hey, give me your name, phone number, or give you your name, your date of birth, and your address, and I'll get you the cheapest quote, and we'll figure out the details later. We're digging through those details on the first call, and then taking it from that process of doing that well to making it easily repeatable, not just amongst yourself, but amongst your other team members. That's when it kind of took the next step.
I just think it's interesting that, in 2016, or 17, whatever that was, you lead the conversation on this flight or whatever with, we have great processes and procedures. A lot of people want to talk about their sexy numbers of their sales, or they want to talk about their hiring, or they want to talk about how many followers they have on this or that. And you start talking about your processes and procedures, which is like the least sexiest thing out there. However, it leads to obviously, some good news there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things that even to this day, the sexy things are not necessarily the things that like there was a post going back and forth a couple of days ago that was where it was talking about Billy Williams was talking about someone who are the industry type where you have these processes that do really well inside of your agency, and then you sell your agency to go teach a course. And it's like, well, if the process was so great, why are you selling the agency to do the course? And I mean, technically, I guess I could fall into that a little bit, but what the big thing that comes into play there is, again, these processes that are good. There's plenty of good processes. It's taking that next step to make it to where it's repeatable, not just for one person, but for multiple people to be successful with it. I was actually on a call earlier today, and we were talking about when you look at all these large organizations, like even in the insurance industry, Brown and Brown, Hub, but then outside of the insurance industry, any successful business, the way that they're successful is they've created this process. They find the right people to plug into those processes, and you either have the willingness to follow that process or you're not successful at that company. And by not being successful, that means you're not with that company. And so plugging people into your processes that you have proven over time and just finding the right people for those processes and not counting on them to figure out how to do it on their own is key.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up. There's so much to unpack there, but I'll start from the back and see where we go from there. I can't remember it from the beginning if I go that way. So you brought up, having those good processes, you can just plug people in. And there's a group of people that I've worked with, and I believe it's in two sections here, but I think there's a section of people that believe that if you have the right processes, the Bill Belichick, so to speak, if you have the right process, the right procedures, you could plug in anybody and be successful, and there's those people like, it doesn't matter who you have in there. As long as they follow what you set up, you're good. And there's people over here that believe that you have to have the right talent and the right this and whatever. It sounds like, are you in this camp over here, the Bill Belichick camp, so to speak, or the Greg Popovich or whoever it might be, or over on the other side of that?
Well, I think the funny thing is, I don't think there's a difference there. I think what people choose to focus on is you bring up Bill Belichick and Greg Popovich. I'm a huge Spurs fan, so love Greg Popovich. Both of those, you look at the winning percentage for Bill Belichick without Tom Brady, and his process, his game planning, his way that he always traded back in the draft and all that stuff was super successful when he had Tom Brady. But you look at him now, he's probably getting fired this year, and it's not the same with Mac Jones or whoever is the quarterback. Same thing with Greg Popovich. He's kind of done a reset with Victor, however you say his last name.
Yeah.
Great processes always still require good talent.
Okay.
And it's whether you are able to, it's not, in my opinion, it's not either or, it's the correct blend of both.
Both ends. I gotcha. I wanted to see if I could pin you on one side or the other, but no, I do think though, that you could take an agency and you can apply some of those principles in there. Like, you plug and play people, but I do think you're right. There's got to be that blend.
Well, and then with both of those situations or any situation, we're looking at the great of the great. We're looking at both sides, those 5-6 championships on both sides. That's a hard level to compare to. That's like the type of agency who in 5 years goes from 0 to 200 million or whatever. It's not, hey, let's focus on how do we get to 0 to 200 million. It's, hey, if we can get to 0 to 10 million in 5 years or whatever it is, good to great is not necessarily the perfection, but good to great is still a great improvement.
Oh, for sure. And I think it's one of those things where if you just focus on, and I know this sounds so cliche and easy to do, and it's harder said than done, but it's one of those things, in my opinion, you focus on the day-to-day, You focus on getting this thing done. It's just small incremental. And all of a sudden you look up, you're like, holy crap, I just wrote $3 million more in premium, or I just wrote this, or how did we get here? Now we got 35 employees and we're doing this. And it's like, I truly believe in those kind of situations. Yeah, you can have those flash in the pan, like grow in like 2 years to be this massive, but is 100%. That sustainable? Is that sustainable? And I know, several of those agencies that put in some of those process and procedures when there's just one person. And then when they add somebody, they just bring those people in. They just stay true to that. And so I find that fascinating.
Yep. And the funny thing is, when you look at those agencies who have those great procedures, processes, whatever else you want to call it, they usually have a pretty good one around hiring good talent too. And that kind of covers up some of that. Like if you're new to that hiring game, but you have the great processes, it covers up if you make a subpar hire. But if you take the time as part of that as well to have a great hiring process, again, good talent overcomes so processes. But you combine those together with the good processes inside of the hiring process, then you just put yourself that further ahead.
Yeah. I agree. And it goes back to, I'm a big sports guy. I think it was a Kevin Durant saying it was like hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. And I think it's the same thing. You could plug in the word processes there if you wanted to,
100%.
So I think that's fascinating. And I love, a good thing because again, until I met, well, I guess I shouldn't say that, but I'll give Kelly some credit. But until I started working with Kelly Donahue-Piro, very good friend of mine, I never really thought about how much, process procedures can really change an agency dynamic and can really add. And so what I would like to do for a second, I'll put you on the spot here for a minute, but where would you say for an agency listening right now, because I want to give them something to walk away with, if you don't mind, of where would they start if they wanted to put in, because again, I've 2 years there with Kelly, I tried to put in these process procedures. A lot of times there's change management's tough. Yeah. But I mean, if you could give an idea of an agency that's like, man, I've got to put in some process procedures. What can I do? Where can I start? Where would you tell them that they should start?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, one thing that I've always tried to stay true to, especially when I was doing technology, building technology inside of my agency, specifically for my agency, but now being a tech founder, whatever, the biggest thing that I constantly think about is technology should only be in place in your agency is if it improves the client relationship. And now the easy way to push back on that is, well, a piece of technology may never touch the client relationship at all, but it makes life easier for my service team. Well, if it makes life easier for your service team, then it ultimately will make your client relationships better because they're happier. They're able to focus on your clients more. So I think that's my point of view. I tend to believe that line of thinking is very important. And so the first thing is looking at that, whether it's technology, which we'll focus on here, is looking through it as the lens. Are we adding something because we're just wanting to add something? Are we adding something because we want to go down the path of making it to where we just make a turn and burn type of game where we're trying to play the volume play? Or are we adding something because we want to be a client focused agency? And the big thing, Jason Cass has mentioned it. It's come around from so many different people have said it. Technology is not going to replace agents. Agents who use technology are going to replace agents who don't. His big thing is AI as part of that. So to kind of bring it into view, it's really, really important whenever you're looking at your processes is, does adding this process, adding this piece of technology, is it going to make me a better agent to my prospects and my clients? And that's where I've really focused in on the Risk Advisor point of view. Is what we're trying to do with Risk Advisor is help agents have better conversations with their prospects on the initial conversation. If you're having better conversations, you're building better rapport, and you're building more trust from the get-go. So it's less catch up on the back end when whether you're doing a quote video through Advisor Evolved or one of the other resources, which are phenomenal. We do that as well. But if you're most agents think about it on the back end, let me make the sale on the back end. If you build that rapport, that trust, you can make that sale from the initial conversation as soon as you pick up the phone.
Yeah, and I, as you say that, I appreciate you starting with technology. It gives me an opportunity to talk about one of my sponsors, who I'm a big fan of, and I wish I'd have known about him when I was an agency owner. Is Canopy Connect. You add them into your processes. I don't know if you're familiar with Canopy Connect, but if you add them into your processes, you eliminate so much, from that busy work, so to speak, or those questions and some of that time. And as we all know, especially in personal lines, time is money. And so if you can get that quote that much quicker, get that information that much quicker, get the driver list, get the deck pages, get all that much quicker, and you add that. Is that what you're talking about there?
Well, what we've done with Risk Advisor is we've got some automation, data pre-fill and things like that to help with those type of things, and continue to hone in on that. But what I think is happening in this today in this industry is there's a gravitation to let's have as little communication with the prospect as possible. And what I mean by that is it kind of goes back to those captive days where we independent agents always want to poke fun at. Is like when I was at State Farm, I only had one system. So all I needed was your name, your address, and your date of birth. And I get you the cheapest quote because it's the only quote I can get you. And that's all I could sell on.
Yeah.
What I'm kind of talking about is whether using Canopy Connect or using, even if they email you your deck pages or things like that, when we have data that comes in that way, our first step is to pick up the phone. So we're going to talk through, and this is the process that's been built with Risk Advisors. We're going to talk through the collecting of information about you. Like we start out with the first 2 to 3 minutes. Hey, tell me about you. What's your goals? What are you looking to do? They find out about kids' names, dogs' names, where they went to school, building rapport. And then you start talking about obviously discounts, but then you move on to your exposures. And that's your obvious ones like animals or pools or trampolines, but it's also your estimated liability risk. Like what's important to you on protecting your future liability, your future wage garnishment if you get into an accident, all these technical things. But we do it in a way that's part of a conversation. It's just hey, this is part of our process. This is for an agent point of view, it's the next question I have to ask as part of this application. And it's just natural because it's built around a conversation. What I mean by that is if thens and that's, if they answer this way, you go down this path, but also all these questions are phrased where somebody could just repeat it back to that person if they ever get stuck or if they're new. And, but we make it easy with data pre-fill. We make it easy by guiding that conversation. So that way you don't have to focus on, am I checking this box? You focus on having a conversation. And that's where I go back to, especially on my sales team. If I can get people in there that are good having a conversation and I can teach them to follow this process, then I can help make them successful.
Yeah. And I've always trained in that, whether you're using Canopy, whether you're using, other technology, I've always trained in or talked about in my own agency days of, making that more of conversational. Like you said, instead of the, what's your date of birth? What's your address? What's your, if you could have that, especially a lot of the calls that agencies would get, or especially in our agency back in the day was, just purchased a new house, or I'm purchasing, and it's more of like, hey, congratulations, David, on your new home. Tell me about your home. And, if they buy a new home, they're going to be really quickly to tell you, man, it's 5,000 square foot or it's 2,500 square foot, brand new roof.
People love bragging on themselves.
Yeah. And so you get them talking about that. It's like, man, we got brand new floors. We got, new AC units, got this. And then all the while you're writing all that stuff down. Like, okay, I got it. I don't have to make it an interrogation type of thing. So sounds 100%. Like, that's what you're talking about there. And so what I was talking about is still able to do that, but having Canopy or Risk Advisor or one of these things to be able to aid in that, to be able to make it where easier for you to have those conversations, and knowing that you've got that, or you can pull up once that information comes in your dashboard using Canopy or whoever, then you or your pre-filled information, be like, oh, I see you've got a 16-year-old son. Let me go ahead and talk to you about this. Or, oh, your son's 18, man. You're getting to that point now, or whatever it might be. Or you see there they have a pit bull. Hey, I understand these are the carriers that don't have a pit bull. These can. How old's your pit bull? What's its name? Da 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 da. So, I think it's cool that you talk about technology as step one of where you would start.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all about propping yourself up. Earlier when we were talking off of the recording, I wrote down something, always trying to think of content to put out there and stuff like that. And I wrote down, you rise to the level of your training, and you rise to the level of your processes. Fall, or whatever the saying is. I'm gonna Google it before I put it out there. But
right,
you get the point where it's, whether it's a process, whether it's your training. We talked a lot about sports already. Like, the big thing is with great athletes is they're great in the gym. They're great practicing. They're great on the practice field, and for 99% of them, always the outliers. But with that, it can be translated to a business, and it's what we talked about all this entire time, where if I'm able to bring someone who's really good in a conversation, but if you just say, hey, the old captive days, hey, think of a list of 100 people that you're going to call as soon as you get here, and start calling them. Well, if I start calling them, I know these people, so it's going to be a decent conversation. But then as soon as I try to pivot to insurance, it's like, there's no trust. As soon as you start fidgeting around, or you can tell someone doesn't know what they're talking about, or know the questions to ask, I've already put yourself behind the 8 ball, because there's no way to build the trust. So getting to a place where you have a process, you have a platform that helps build trust, which every agent always talks about, but they can't point out how you're going to do it. But if you put a place where you have great talent, and you can give them a platform or give them a process that allows them to easily build trust without even thinking about it, they're going to be more successful.
Yeah, it goes back to unpacking what you just brought up. I'm a big Jerry Maguire fan. Old movie, I know, but I still reference the movie sometimes. And it's, there's a scene where him and the little boy are going back and forth on little stupid things that they know, and did you know things. And he says, dogs and bees can smell fear. And I think our prospects, they can smell fear. They can smell desperation. They can smell, lack of confidence, all of those things out. And so I try to train on that. Whether you have it or not, find a way to arm yourself with the right tools to be confident, to be successful, or fake it till you make it, whatever it takes. But I think you're right on that. We're at a mid-roll ad, ladies and gentlemen. I got to talk to you about your grooming needs. Guys, as you know, Manscaped has been a partner of mine for almost a year now, and I love having them as a partner, because even though it's wintertime, even though you're probably hibernating in the snow somewhere, or you're just hiding out, you still got to take care of those grooming needs. You don't want to come out of hibernation looking like a woolly mammoth. Make sure you take care of those grooming needs with the Beard Hedger Pro. Make sure you can even check out the Handyman, which is a handy dandy travel size razor that can go right in your travel bag if you're traveling. Also, make sure you get the lawnmower so you can take care of your eyebrows, your ear hairs, your nose hairs, all of those things, guys. You want to make sure that you're still looking good when you come out of hibernation. Guys, go to manscaped.com, and when you get to checkout, put in the code MAYOR for 25% off plus free shipping. Ladies and gentlemen, 20% off plus free shipping. You don't want to miss this opportunity. Manscaped.com. Guys, let's get back to the show.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do when I'm still working through quotes is I pull up, if I get a lead that I'm working on or referral, I'll pull up Risk Advisor, I'll put their information in, let the data pre-fill work. And then through it, you can pull up a Zillow listing and see the pictures of the house and things like that. I'll work to pre-fill or through the data pre-fill, but then also me manually selecting the other things as much as I can before I get the person on the phone. So that way, what I like when I pick up the phone and call them and get them on the phone, it's, hey man, I was checking out your house, like your kitchen, like especially if it's a house that they're buying. We talked a little bit earlier about people love bragging on themselves. Man, that kitchen is beautiful. I bet your wife is so happy, or whatever it is. And hey, it looks like I'm showing it's like 3,900 square feet. Is that correct? There's a difference between how many square feet is your home versus
is it
your house. I am sure I see that your house is 3,900 square feet. Is that correct? It's the level of preparation. Hey man, this guy is a professional. He took something so minimal. He took the time to know the information before asking for it. This guy is somebody that you want to work with.
100%. I love that. I think you're exactly right on that. And so, since you've brought it up a little bit, so much more I want to unpack here, but I may have you back on again. But tell me a little bit, as you brought up, because it sounds like an amazing tool. For those right now that are listening, personal lines agents that are wondering, you brought up Risk Advisor several times. What is Risk Advisor? I know you talked about it several times and how you got there, its process, procedures. People are like, what is it really, though? And, I've seen him doing some stuff on LinkedIn or Facebook, or I've heard of this guy. What is Risk Advisor at its core?
Yep. So the Risk Advisor is built around guiding a conversation. So it's built for the personal lines agent, and it's built around, hey, we're going to help guide a conversation so that way you can plug your team in, or even yourself, and you know exactly what to ask based on responses. And what that allows you to do is make sure that the first time you collect everything that you need to do, or you need to collect. And so on the front end, we're focusing on that guided conversation that's going to lead to more cross-sell opportunities, enhanced upsell opportunities. When I first started using this, we did a good job of cross-selling umbrellas. Well, built into this is an estimated liability risk calculator. And when we started using that just inside of our own agency, not only did our cross-sell percentage of umbrellas go up, but instead of just selling a bunch of $1 million umbrellas, we started seeing 2, 5, 10. I've even sold a $20 million umbrella just by using this tool, because someone might be buying a $500,000 house. You're like, oh yeah, $1 million. But once you start getting into the true details of the liability risk for someone, it's like, no, you need 5 or 10. So do that on the front end, help collect the correct, good, clean data. Back end, because there's so much fracture in the insurance industry all over, all these different systems that everybody's using or piecemealing together, we've turned it into a single point of entry. So whether that's sending it over to Agency Zoom or another CRM, sending it over to raters, sending it over to virtual assistants, we've created the process of making it extremely easy for virtual assistants to have structured data, so that way it's not a bunch of back and forth of, hey, you didn't give me this piece of information, but this carrier over here is asking for it. What do I do? They have all of that. Same thing for personal line wholesale brokers if you're using those, so on and so on. So you get on the front end good structured data from a clean guided conversation. On the back end, easy distribution to cut down on duplicate, triple, so on and so on entry. So that way you can focus on what you do best, which is selling insurance and building trust and rapport while you do it.
I love it. And what I love is that you started this whole thing using it yourself. You built this for your agency, right?
Yep. And still use it. I pushed one through last week or earlier this week. So
there you go.
No, it really did come from a big thing for me and my agency, even early on, is if it takes me 3 hours to build something, but it saves my team 30 seconds every single time, but you extrapolate that over 1,500 times a year, then I'm ultimately helping make my team, but also my agency, more money because of the way that with that focus. And that's the same way that we've been focusing on when we build out things inside of Risk Advisor.
So it worked for your agency, and then when you got over to Mappus, which is a larger agency, it's worked well for them, and now you've began you know uh, getting this out to the masses, so to speak, and that you've had a great response to that. It sounds like, and some people that may not know what it is or what happened here. I know you were involved in with 101 Weston Labs. Can you
Yep.
tell me about that experience? What it is for those that don't know or they've seen it, don't understand. Share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so 101 Weston Labs is an InsurTech accelerator, which there's several great ones out there, but Aubie Knight and the Big Eye of North Carolina um, focused on an InsurTech accelerator that is for technology companies that focus on the independent agent. A lot of InsurTech out there nowadays is it's all in one bucket. You've got the InsurTech that could be an InsurTech carrier. You have an InsurTech that, yeah, they service and help with agency stuff, but they also do something direct to consumer or something like that. What they really wanted to do was provide an accelerator for companies that their number one ideal client is the independent agent, so that way they could pour back into the independent agent force. So it was a huge honor. This was the first year. It was a huge honor to be part of the first cohort. We kicked off in North Carolina June of this year, 2023, since we're about to be in 2024. And then had a great demo day, pitch day in August of 2023.
Yeah, and from what I understand, like you get like part of that is like your own advisor or your own coach, so to speak, kind of sort of like a Shark Tank kind of situation.
Yeah, so it's a mixture. So Pat Klein is the director of the accelerator. Fantastic dude. I love working with him, and he has a bunch of experience in the technology space, and he helps you think through those things that, like, going from an agency to a tech company, you don't really think through. Help put together my pitch deck and things like that. But on top of that, what they did is twice a week they had sessions that were scheduled. So bringing in different people to talk through things, like
Yeah.
people like Bradley Flowers and Chris Paradiso and people like that had subjects that they talked on. They even brought in one of my favorite sessions is they brought in someone to talk about mental health for founders.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, it's like it really is. It's been the cohort has really come together, and we still chat. Like, I think we have a call next week to just check in with everybody. But they did a phenomenal job, especially with it being the first year, and really excited to continue to see it year after year. And however they'll let me be involved, would love to continue to be involved with that. So it's a phenomenal program, and if you there's a lot of ways to get involved. You don't have to just be a company to that is wanting to go through the accelerator. You don't even have to be someone who is looking to invest in InsurTech or indie tech, whatever you want to call it. They're looking for company or for agencies who are willing to test new technology
Beta
in their
testers.
agency.
Yeah.
Yep. And
That,
so
yeah, great idea.
even if you don't fall into the company or an investor, reach out to 101 Weston Labs to get on their list of beta testers, because that feedback is extremely huge for companies like RiskVisor.
Yeah, people, listening to this might be wondering why do I care about the experience there and why should you care? Is because it's more than just David Watson out there on an island by himself creating this company. He's got people behind him. He's got experienced advisors working with him. He's got a cohort he's working with. They're even looking out for your mental health. I mean, that's fantastic. And that's just going to be, I've seen in the last 10 years so many in this indie tech or insure tech space coming in and out. They fizzle in, they fizzle out. And that's tough, because they've
Yeah.
got a great idea. They got a great company. They've got great backing, but just stuff happens, And
Yeah.
so to have this opportunity with 101 Weston Labs has got to be huge for you. And I think it's huge for the
Yeah.
people listening, the consumer.
Yeah. No, I mean, some of our largest growth month over month occurred June through August of this year. So there's no coincidence around that.
100%, man. I think that's awesome. So tell me, as we begin to wrap up a little bit, tell me a little bit, is there anything coming out that you could talk about that you've got going on at Risk Advisor, or anything that you want to discuss, or is there anything coming down the pipe that you're thinking of?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for us is we're continuing to hone in and focus around not just a verbal conversation, but a digital conversation. So I talked a lot, and I will always talk a lot about the importance of having a conversation with your prospects, but that doesn't always mean the same thing for every single prospect. So we've got some cool things coming out around enabling a better digital conversation with your prospects, and able to not lose sight of, hey, yeah, it's a client facing form where they give you your information. But no, on top of that, to continue to point back to the relationship with the advisor, who they're working with, so that way, yes, they're filling it out on their phone or filling it out online, but they're reminded that the person that they're working with is working for them, and someone who can be trusted. And so we've got some cool things around that. We've got some other cool things around flexibility for the agent inside the platform. Some future cool things around helping agents underwrite risk on the front end, so that way they have less busy work. So a lot of cool things. As you know, I try to be active on social media, try to follow the Gary V way of doing things. The more you talk about it, your business in a positive way, or just a consistent way, the more impact and more people you can reach with it. So wide open on social media. Any way that you people want to follow along, we'd love to have them part of the story.
Yeah, it's a good segue to my next question is, how can people find you? What's the best way you want to be reached? People do have questions. They want to sign up to demo or to sign up to hear more. Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is the place for the most consistent business content, especially on the Risk Advisor side. I'll go back and forth between the Risk Advisor account and my personal account, posting updates and stories and best practices. So that type of content. Agent David Watson is my URL. Search for David Watson. I'm sure will pop up. Facebook, pretty wide open on that as well. Not as much stuff. Twitter is a nice mixture of business content and bad sports takes. So if you want that sprinkled in, love to follow each other there. And then David at riskadvisor.insure is the best way to get in touch with me. Reaching out about whether it's a demo, talking about startup life, talking about insurance, needing help with crazy coastal risk or things like that. Any way that people want to reach out, I love talking to other agents.
Dude, that's awesome. And I love your honesty. I love your approach to this conversation. It's been awesome. So thank you so much for hanging out.
Thank you.
Good luck in 2024 as we get this year kicked off.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, brother. What a great episode, right? Thank you so much, David Watson, for hanging out with us. Thank you guys for hanging out. I really urge you guys to subscribe, to like on Facebook or LinkedIn, and to tell your friends about the show as we continue to grow, we continue to do things. We've got a lot of cool ideas coming up, so make sure you go do that. Subscribe, maybe even give a rating. I'd love a good 5-star rating from you guys on Apple or on anywhere you listen to podcasts, where ratings and reviews are encouraged. Thank you guys so much, and I look forward to hanging out with you again next week.